I think I know everybody, almost everybody here. And I am Dawn McKechnie, and I'm the Outreach and Education Coordinator here at Community VNA. And of course, Community VNA, I think just about everybody might know that we're here in Attleboro, and we serve the 13 communities in the greater Attleboro area with home health, skilled nursing, and rehab services. We also have a hospice and palliative care division, and several other programs, including the Alzheimer's Assistance Program, which you'll hear a little bit about today. And I love to do these webinars because I learn something new every time. And I love to welcome speakers like Athena, who just have a new perspective and a deep dive on an important topic. So I just want to welcome you all today. And then I think what we'll do next is I'd love to introduce Robin Walsh from the Alzheimer's Assistance Program. And Robin, maybe you could say a little bit about how long you've been with the agency, what the Alzheimer's...
110 years, no. I'm kidding, folks.
It may feel that way sometimes, but yeah, Robin's our social worker that works with the Alzheimer's Assistance Program as well as other parts of our agency's work. And maybe you could also share not only what the program does, but how it's funded. So go ahead, Robin.
Okay, thank you, Dawn. Hello, everybody. So I will start with, it's not 110 years. I've been here 22 years this summer, so I do have a little bit of history. And I love this program, the Alzheimer's Assistance Program. I have a colleague, Joyce Coletto. We work together very closely, and we offer education, support, outreach. We do home visits, and the real fortunate thing is we get to offer some free respite services if that's appropriate. So that's a wonderful thing. So I'm very happy to be a part of it. And this is exciting to learn more about this research and medications that are out there now, because we do talk with many families and caregivers at various aspects of the caregiving, journey, from beginning to, end of life. And we get referrals from doctor's offices, family members, in-house, so to speak, acute care nursing staff often. And we also can educate a little bit about the hospice services. So it's kind of a continuum of care, and we work closely with all of the departments. The funding of it, well, we have a free care fund at Community VNA, and we have staff working hard trying to do fundraising, and we get donations, and there's, private donors and foundations. And it's been a wonderful thing in existence since 2001. So the in-home respite, as I said, is one of the respites. It's a health care aid once a week. And also we offer adult day health 3 days a month. And I'm happy to expand upon that. If anyone would like to contact me, I'm sure, Dawn, you'll go over the contact information later. That's the abbreviated version. Was that too long?
That was perfect, Robin. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And I'll just, I'm going to introduce Athena in a moment. And just to say that the folks that did contact me and registered for this program today, about half registered out of professional interest and half registered out of personal interest. And some folks are interested in telling their own patients about the study that Athena is going to tell us about. And some are interested in participating in the study. And some are just curious about the research that's happening. There's been a lot in the news lately about Alzheimer's disease research and the new medication that's come out recently. So I'll tell you a little bit about our guest, and I'm so happy to welcome Athena Lavoie today. And Athena has been an outreach coordinator for over 3 years at the Butler Hospital Memory and Aging Program. And she serves as the primary liaison for the program between the program and primary care physicians, community-based providers, and support organizations. Athena also manages referrals to Butler Butler's Alzheimer Prevention Registry, and leads a team of community-based and student volunteers called the SWAB Squad. That's hard to say. So they've obviously got a sense of humor. The SWAB Squad. You'll have to do that part. But they assist the memory and aging program with clinical trials and at community events. So, so welcome, Athena, and take it away.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, everybody, for attending today. I'm so glad to be here and have an opportunity to talk to you a little bit about the memory and aging program. And I'll be talking about one trial specifically, but as Dawn mentioned, there's a lot going on here and in Rhode Island and in the news right now. So I'm happy towards the end if you would like to hear more about other research that we have or have any questions about anything. We can definitely go off topic a little bit, but first I'll talk to you about our pointer program. So let me just get my screen shared here. Let's see. Can everybody see this? Okay. All right. So again, my name is Athena Lavoie. I am one of 3 outreach coordinators here at the Memory and Aging program. Our program is led by Dr. Stephen Soloway. You probably have seen him in the news a lot lately because we did just do the first infusion of the Aduhelm drug that was recently approved by the FDA. But he leads our program here, and we're around 50 staff members at this time with ongoing research, prevention research like the pointer study, which I'm going to talk about today, as well as research for clinical trials for people that have a diagnosis of mild cognitive impairment or Alzheimer's disease. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about the US pointer study. So the US pointer study is sponsored by the National Alzheimer's Association. And we were so excited to take this study on because, one, it's prevention. And our program, although, as I mentioned, we will be doing the new drug that is by infusion for people that it is prescribed for. And we have plenty of studies for people with diagnosis. But we believe so strongly in prevention because we can detect now using things like PET scans if somebody might be at risk for Alzheimer's earlier than we ever could before. And so catching the people that might be at a higher risk due to their genetics or due to a buildup of amyloid protein in the brain, we want to see what we can do to lower that risk of ever developing Alzheimer's disease before symptoms ever start. There are drug trials that are prevention trials, but US pointer is an intervention that is lifestyle intervention. So no clinical drug. And I'll talk about exactly what pointer is in a moment. But it's exciting because it's a fairly low burden participation for people that are interested in seeing what they can do to lower their risk and does not involve clinical drug. So first, we'll kind of go over what a clinical trial is. And so a clinical trial is, basically anything that is studying whether it's a clinical drug or an intervention, or perhaps even something that's observational in nature to come up with new testing, treatment, diagnosis. And the important thing to know about clinical research, no matter what kind of trial it is that clinical research is completely voluntary. So if at any time, whether you're in the screening process, whether you've started a clinical trial, you can always withdraw, and that is certainly the case with the pointer study as well. Some of the reasons for participating in clinical trials include just taking a really active role in your own healthcare. And of course, this being a prevention trial, seeing what you can do to prevent your risk, in this case for Alzheimer's disease specifically. With the pointer study, there are potentially other benefits such as better overall health, including heart health, because a lot of the things that are part of the pointer study are also very heart healthy. For people that go to their primary care, hopefully they're going to their primary care at least once a year for a checkup. People that are in this study are also going to get at least 2 more checkups here with the Butler team. So coming in every 6 months at the minimum to, test for their cholesterol and blood pressure, as well as memory assessments and other things. So really staying on top of your physical health, and your mental health and your risk for Alzheimer's disease. The other thing that's really important as far as research goes, whether it's a trial like this or perhaps even joining a registry to keep in touch with research sites like ours, is just to stay in the know. So, if there's a new study that you could be a match for, we will let you know. And most registries are that way. We'll reach out and say, hey, would you like to learn more about Pointer or whatever study you might be eligible for? And if there's something, like the recent news that we just had, our registrants and people that are connected with us are often the first to know. So really just connecting, with research is important, whether you're in a study or not. It's really important for this and for all studies that we have some diversity in our research participants in order to find out what works best, whether it be prevention or treatment, drug trials or lifestyle intervention. We want to know what works best for all people. And in order to do that, it's important to have diversity in our research in all trials. So at the Memory and Aging program, we are making we're trying to make some significant changes to make sure that we are reaching out to diverse populations and recruiting diverse populations of participants. The US Pointer study in particular has lots of different outreach and things from the national level coming down to assist us in doing that. So we really do feel supported in that and trying our best to reach those goals. So overall, what are the goals of the US Pointer study? This is all about healthy lifestyle and lifestyle intervention. So what we're looking at here is testing if diet and exercise changes can lower your risk for Alzheimer's disease. I'm going to back this up just a little bit and talk to you about where the Pointer study came from. And you can feel free to look this up too if you want a little bit of background on where the study came from. But the Pointer study mirrors something called the Finger study, which was done in Finland. So that was completed in Finland, and it was very similar, diet and exercise changes and following people that might be at risk for Alzheimer's. And there were some really great results. So the National Alzheimer's Association here in the US decided, okay, we're going to do this here. They picked 5 sites and we're one of them. And so we're retesting this here to see what the results are with the population in the US. What we're looking to see is if having moderate levels of exercise more than 3 days a week. And so that means, getting your heart rate up and following a Mediterranean style diet will lower your risk for Alzheimer's disease. And so you will have, monitoring throughout, guidance throughout. We'll talk about how you may be enrolled and randomized in this study, but everybody that participates will get guidance on how to make these healthy changes. And so I talked about this a little bit before, but if the results are positive, this is going to be a huge tool in prevention. So doctors can almost, hopefully, if the results turn out the way that we hope, they can almost kind of prescribe, diet and exercise changes for people that are at risk. It's something that they'll feel confident doing. And so when this study concludes, it's a 2-year study, we're hoping that that will be. Okay, so a little bit more about the details of this study. I mentioned there are 5 sites, Rhode Island at Butler Hospital, and we do this in conjunction with the Miriam Hospital. Rhode Island is the only site in the Northeast. So we are recruiting participants in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and parts of Connecticut. You'll see later it is important that people are somewhat local, but really New England is fine. We also will be recruiting by zip code. So I'll get into that in a little bit, but we'll be recruiting actively by zip code. In general, the study is looking for 2,000 participants. That's a lot of people. And that means 400 participants per site because there's only 5 sites in this study. So right now, I think we are very close to our 100th participant. So we're about a quarter of the way there. And we're going to continue until we get to 400. So it's a really big number because when we reach out and people screen for research, not everybody that's interested is going to be a good participant. So we lose a lot of people in the screening process, whether it's a health condition or their cognitive status or their age or location or whatever it might be. We lose a lot of people that are interested. So that's why we're here trying to tell you about what we're doing and asking you to reach out and tell people, because the more people that screen, the more chance we have of getting to 400 and being able to prove this theory here. The study itself includes two types of interventions, or really two different groups. So for someone that enrolls in this study, once they decide to enroll, they will be randomized into one of two groups. So just like in a clinical drug trial, you can be randomized into a drug or a placebo group. Here, everyone's doing the same thing, but the difference is that one group will be considered structured. The structured group will receive the same type of guidance, but will have more frequent check-ins. So as I mentioned before, everybody comes to Butler Hospital every 6 months, so twice a year, for updates to their memory assessments, health checks, and they will still be doing the same thing as far as being asked to exercise and diet in the Mediterranean style diet. The structured group, though, will have check-ins with someone that is called a navigator, assigned to a small group or cohort that person is enrolled with. So that is why we're enrolling by zip code. For example, if I were to want to enroll in this study and I was randomized into the structured group, I live in Attleboro, so I would be likely randomized with the others that were in the structured group in the Attleboro, or at least close to the area zip code. The reason for that is that these check-ins with a navigator right now are virtual, and that's because of COVID. But the way this study was designed is that people in the structured group would actually have these check-ins with their cohort of 10 or 12 other people and their navigator somewhere local to them. So somewhere within the community, easy for people to get to, public transportation, and they would actually meet in person and talk about what they're doing and have more of a group style. That's still happening, it's just virtual. But eventually, probably this fall, all groups will go to an in-person meeting setting. Okay, so second option, as far, well, it's not an option, actually, I shouldn't call it that. It's flip of a coin, you don't get to choose which group you're in, but second type of group is self-guided. And so again, self-guided will be asked to do the same things, same type of exercise, same diet, but you won't have as frequent check-ins. And so that's the real difference there, is that you're certainly not alone. You always have people here at the program that you can check in with if you choose, but you won't be required to do any extra meetings. And lastly, this is a 2-year study, that starts when the participant enrolls. So even though we've been recruiting and it's kind of this rolling admission, once enrolled, the participant will be in the study for 2 years. All right, so who can join? This is probably what everyone wants to know for themselves and for their clients. So for this study, we are looking for people that are 60 to 79, that are sedentary, not regular exercisers. And it's not listed on here, but this is for people that are cognitively normal. I mentioned this is a prevention study. So this is not for people that have serious memory concerns. We do have other studies for people in that group, which I can talk about, but this is truly a prevention study. So, people may have family history. They don't have to. They might, and usually people that have a family history are those that are most interested because they want to see what they can do to lower their own risk. But some of the factors that are important is you have to be between 60 and 79. You need to be in the New England area. You need to be not a regular exerciser. So, we don't need people that are complete couch potatoes. That's fine too. But, if you're taking leisurely walks around your neighborhood once or twice a week, that's not considered a regular exerciser. If you're doing a moderate exercise 3 or more times a week, you're probably already doing a good job and you might not be eligible for this study. But if not, you could be eligible. So family history could be a risk factor, but it is not mandatory. Having high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or blood sugar could also be a factor, but is not something that you absolutely need to have in order to enroll in this study. When screening for the study, you will also be asked questions about your diet. And so for those that decide to go ahead and do a survey to see if they might be eligible, really important, of course, that you answer all the questions honestly, but especially on the diet and exercise part, we ask that you answer honestly so we can take a look and see if your diet can be a little bit closer to the Mediterranean style. And I should mention that the Mediterranean style diet is following a diet that has less red meat, more lean protein, fish, beans, green leafy vegetables, colored vegetables, so basically everything other than a white potato, berries specifically versus just fruit. Berries specifically are part of this Mediterranean and mind diet is actually what they call it in the study. Let's see, of course, less sweets, using olive oil instead of butter or margarine. So those are some of the things that participants are asked to do. Participants are given this kind of lifestyle coaching, whether they're in the structured or the more self-led group. You're not asked to follow a specific diet plan of every meal of every day. There is definitely some leeway. It's more just incorporating some of the things that I was just talking about. So less red meat, more fish, things like that. So it's not so specific that you have to really go out of your way to change every meal that you eat. It's more about making an overall healthy change. So some of the benefits of joining, we talked about the lifestyle coaching. One way or another, whichever group you're in, you will get coaching and guidance, the regular memory checkups, as well as physical checkups, and then blood testing as well for cholesterol and other things. And of course, just being part of our research site, as I was mentioning before, you can keep up to date with everything that we're doing and be the first to know when new things come around. Okay, we've talked about this a little bit as well, the health monitoring and the team meetings for support. Either way, you'll have that support. I should talk a little bit about the Miriam Hospital probably at this point. So Butler Hospital, we are the site that is recruiting. So myself and the outreach team here, we are recruiting by doing presentations like this, by doing mail, like just regular snail mail blasts and email blasts, and working through our registry to reach out to Rhode Islanders and people in the surrounding area to see who might be interested in joining. The Miriam Hospital are going to be in charge of the diet and exercise portion. So once somebody comes through our program, we do all the screening with them and they decide to enroll. At that point, they will actually work closer with the Miriam Hospital on some of the diet and exercise, some of that guidance that I've been talking about, but still checking in with us at least twice a year. Of course, there's no cost to participate in this study. As with all of the research that we have, there's no cost to the participants. In most studies, including the Pointer study, there is some very minimal compensation for time and travel, but no cost, of course, to the participant. So this is obviously a very community-based study. We talked about, for those especially that are in the more structured group, you're going to be in a cohort of people that are within your community or close by. This is hopefully going to be very convenient for participants. Right now, it's very convenient because you can do everything by Zoom. But even when it's in person, we're going to make it convenient, accessible via public transportation, things like that. The time burden is pretty low. I mean, if you think about making a lifestyle change for 2 years, that's a commitment. So we're not going to say that you're not going to have anything to do here, but as far as, physically coming in for appointments and things like that, there's not a huge burden of time, or time commitment. This is a study that includes no pill, no drug. So really just lifestyle intervention, which for a lot of people is pretty, accessible as an idea of what they can do to lower their risk. And many people that I've talked to have said, I know that these are things that I've heard are good for my brain health and my heart health, but it's hard to get motivated to do them. Even those with a family history, they might say, I know that Mediterranean diet is going to be good for my brain health, but it's just hard to do. So for people that are screening for this study, that's their reason, is this is their motivation to do it, and they're hoping they can be eligible. So what can you, or people that you're spreading the word about this to, do? Contact us right here at the Butler Hospital Memory and Aging Program. You can contact us directly. You can just give us a call or an email. The first step is going to be to do an eligibility survey. So you may have a quick phone call with someone like myself just to make sure that you fit all the basic criteria that we talked about, age and location, being somewhat sedentary. But from there, we'll have much more detailed questions about your medical history, your health history, and your diet and exercise. It's important that we screen for these questions, even if it's not a drug trial. There are some health conditions and medications that will be an exclusion for this research. So it's important that we can screen for that. And the best way to do that, at least to start, is online, just to make it easier and more accessible for everybody. So we do have a survey that we can send to those that meet the very initial criteria to see if they might be eligible. So the number to call is 401 Pointer. Hopefully that's easy enough to remember. 401 Pointer will get you to myself and the rest of the outreach team here to ask any questions or to get access to that survey. And then pointer@butler.org is an email that you can shoot us an email as well if you want to talk about it a little bit more or you have any interest. So 401 Pointer and pointer@butler.org, but I'll send all this information to Donna as well. So you have it. We do have these other locations, or the study has these other locations, as I've mentioned. So if you have friends and family that are nationwide, there are a couple other spots where they can potentially sign up for the Pointer study. And so just to wrap up the Pointer section of this presentation today, and I'm happy to talk a little bit more and answer questions about other aspects of our research, but some follow-up would be with either myself, Tara Tang is our outreach manager, and Lulu Saraiva is also an outreach coordinator with me. And the three of us manage the Pointer study incoming eligibility questions, as well as questions about other research that we have here. We are usually out in the community doing this type of thing. Right now, a lot of it's virtual, but you may see us out and about hopefully soon. The number that you see there will get you to us, but you can also just call 401 Pointer. We'll get you the same number. And I wanted to mention a little bit about our registry. So at the top, I've included our registry address, which is through our website, butler.org/ALZ registry. So the reason that I mention this is because, if Pointer maybe isn't right for you or your clients for one reason or another, you don't fit the criteria or not interested, if someone were to join our online registry, it would be similar in that you would be answering questions about yourself, your medical history, medications, things like that. A couple questions about diet and exercise, but not as many. This will allow us to, one, keep in touch with you, as I've been mentioning, keeping connected to a program like ours, but it also acts as sort of a trial match system. So our registry, and Rhode Island Hospital has one, the Alzheimer's Associations usually have them as well for trial matches. I highly encourage joining as many registries as you can. If you're interested in Alzheimer's research or prevention, there's no reason not to join a bunch and see who might contact you about eligibility. For us, again, this will connect you to our program and all studies that we have that are currently enrolling or enrolling in the future. So I highly encourage anyone, you can really be any age. We say 40 plus because that's the lowest age limit our research has ever gone, but really anyone can join and connect with our program. So joining the registry. And then I have our social media information down here too. For those of you that might be interested in following us, we do post a lot of really great content, not just about what's going on in the world, and there's been a lot going on lately, of course, in the news, but we also post a lot about our participants. And so none of any of this is possible without our participants. And so we'll, as often as we can, post features on them to hear their voices and their stories and their progress. Or their reasons why they've joined maybe a prevention study. So that's my favorite part of what we do on social media. So feel free to follow us if you don't already. And then of course, we'll post when we do events and presentations like this as well. So that's all that I have for the US Pointer study, but I'm happy to talk about it a little bit more if there are more specific questions or any of the other research that we have. I really appreciate everyone's time today, and here for questions if there are any.
Thank you so much, Athena. That was really interesting, and I love how you kind of condensed it into the basics so that we kind of know what you're hoping to achieve and how to contact you. And hopefully, a couple of interested folks will come out of this presentation. But I was curious, and I was hoping you would tell us a little bit more about the medical trial that's happening right now. But I'm curious to know, with this with the announcement of the medical trials, if you expect it to diminish interest in some of the other trials that you have, and do you worry a little bit about that?
Yeah, so so the medicine that you're referring to, I'll just give as deep of an overview as I can, although we're still learning a lot right now. So the recent news regarding the FDA approval of aducanumab was the name of the drug in trials, which was studied here and also at Rhode Island Hospital. So Rhode Island is just like a hub for this particular study in this drug that was created by Biogen and Eisai. So the FDA approved the drug now known as Aduhelm back on the 7th of June. And, we weren't exactly sure which way this was going to go, but we're preparing and getting ready in the hopes that it would be approved for people, that are appropriate to receive the drug. And so the news was positive, and we kind of made it happen here at our program to be able to give the first infusion of this drug to a participant in our program. So this is not a medical trial. We do have a trial still going on for that drug. The only people that are able to be in the clinical trial version for aducanumab are people that had been in it prior. So we're not taking new people, but those that were in the study before are continuing to get drug as an open label, meaning everyone gets drug. There's no placebo for people in that group. What we did last week was give the first infusion for a patient. So this particular gentleman is not in a clinical trial. He's been part of our program before in other studies, and he's a clinic patient of Dr. Salloway's. And he was an appropriate candidate because he has a very early stage of Alzheimer's disease. He, health-wise, met no other exclusions. There are some things that, we'll have to take a look at for people that are interested. So for instance, the side effects that we do know about with this drug, we know need to be monitored by MRIs. And that's part of the label for this drug. And that's something that we have done in clinical research and will continue to do for our patients. So patients have to be MRI compatible and things like that. There's going to be more to come. I think that for us at Butler Hospital, the first group of patients that we will infuse will probably be our clinic participants, whether they're from other studies and they stop those studies and they want to, get the FDA approved drug instead. I'm sure some of that will happen. They may be people like Mark, who was the first person to be infused, who was not currently in a study and jumped at the opportunity. And then from there, we're already starting a wait list of people that are not already involved with us that will be able to hopefully provide the drug to. I don't think that this will affect studies like Pointer and like the other prevention studies, because the drug is only prescribed to people that already have a diagnosis of a mild cognitive impairment or Alzheimer's disease. So we've still got this whole other group of people, which we are focused on and have been so focused on, which is prevention. And so, those people are a little bit younger, perhaps they have a family history, or they may know their genetic status, whether they've done it through clinical research or they've done one of the at-home, tests to see if they carry a risk gene for Alzheimer's. So I think people in that group, they're not able to get the drug. And so they're still going to be looking for something that they can do to lower their risk. And Pointer is definitely one of those things that they can do. It being lifestyle versus a clinical drug trial, I think is really attractive to people because some people may be fearful of clinical drug trials. But we also have that option as prevention too. We have a trial called the AHEAD study, so AHEAD. The AHEAD study is prevention. So people that are cognitively normal, no serious memory concerns. And it's a drug that is doing something similar to the FDA approved drug where it's looking to break down the amyloid plaques in the brain. People that might be eligible for this study will get a PET scan. We'll actually be able to tell them if they have an elevated level of the plaque. And so people are excited about that because it's not something their doctor can just order for them.
That's great. Yeah, that's so interesting. I have a lot of questions, but I want to open it up a little bit. Does anyone else have any comments, any questions for Athena or for Robin? You can feel free to unmute your microphone and go ahead and ask if you have any specific questions.
Hi, John, this is Cheryl. Athena, that was an excellent presentation. I'm very interested in this topic. I do have a question. Now, when you talk about meetings with the Navigators, how often do those take place?
That's a really good question. And excuse me if I'm coughing, I'm having some allergy issues this week. So for that group, they start, sorry, give me just one second, I'm sorry.
Take your time.
Okay, so they start frequent, potentially up to once a week, and then they slow down. So it would go from once a week to once every other week to once a month as the study progresses on into the 2 years. I think it may go as low as once every month. So it starts off with many and then we'll decline from there.
No, that sounds very interesting. I'll be honest with you, I am participating in an Alzheimer's study where I do these tests every couple of months, and I just find it fascinating. And I think it's good to be able to contribute to the research.
That's another piece that I didn't actually mention, is that in addition to having all these extra health checks and memory assessments, you know, you're benefiting the field. You know, you're benefiting the science too, which for a lot of people in itself is a benefit, you know, aside from the personal benefit.
That's great. Anyone else? Oh, go ahead, Connie, if you want to unmute yourself, or I can, yeah, go right ahead. Here, I'll unmute you. Hold on a second. Okay, it should say, yep.
There we go.
Go ahead.
Thank you. My husband has cerebral amyloid angiopathy, which isn't exactly an Alzheimer's disease. And I understand they're doing some studying on this also. Is that part of your hospital that they just started this, checking the amyloid angiopathy, amyloid in the brain?
Not at the memory and aging program. So the memory and aging program research is very specific to Alzheimer's disease. So I'm not aware of that. It might be local, but not here. At this point, and for the last few years, the research that we've been doing is specific to Alzheimer's disease. There are many other types of dementia as well. I didn't talk about that. You know, but Parkinson's related dementia and, you know, frontotemporal dementia and all these other types. Dementia is an umbrella term, right? And so underneath that, there's all these different types, and Alzheimer's disease is the most common, but there are others. And so I get questions often about, you know, other types of research. Unfortunately, here it's just for Alzheimer's disease specifically.
Well, this amyloid comes and goes and causes problems like Alzheimer's. So it's something nobody studied before. Thank you.
Anybody else? If you, oh, go ahead, Robin, if you can unmute yourself. And if anyone else has questions too, please feel free to start unmuting yourselves and go right ahead. Oh, Robin, you're not quite unmuted. Let me just fix that for you. Okay, I can.
Better?
Yep.
Okay. My question is related to the Miriam Hospital part of this study. So the participants would have to go to Miriam Hospital in person, correct, at some point for follow-up?
No, not necessarily. So
No.
they need to come to Butler Hospital twice a year. The Miriam team will follow up with them mostly virtually and contact those that are in the structured group. They'll work, you know, virtually with their navigator, and when it becomes in person, those visits will be within their community. So again, example,
With the navigator?
yeah, so the navigator would come to, say, Attleboro or Warwick or wherever it is.
That's
Yeah,
very
so the
convenient.
navigator travels.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, but clinical site is just here at Butler Hospital. The participant, of course, will know which group that they're randomized into, and the Miriam Hospital will know which group they're randomized into. But the interesting thing is that our team here at Butler Hospital, we will actually be blind to which group a person is in, minus one person, the PA here that will let them know which group that they're in. But other than that, the rest of our team will actually be blind to, you know, which group, just to keep the you know, the data accurate. So the Miriam helps us out a lot.
Awesome. Anyone else got a question or a comment, or well, we have Athena with us today. Okay, seeing none, I just have one more question that I wanted to ask. And it's good to know about that Alzheimer's registry that you mentioned, so that you can see where you're matched with your own medical history and, you know, age, gender, all that stuff. How many current studies are happening right now through Butler Hospital?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we at any given time have between like 15 and 20 different studies. I think right now we're around 18.
Oh,
All those studies are currently enrolling. So some of them are closed to enrollment. We have several drug trials for people that have a diagnosis that are closed to enrollment. Right now enrolling, we have a few observational studies. So that would be, no intervention, no drug, but, getting still checkups and memory assessments, and of course, helping the field to make, new ways of diagnosing and diagnosing early, especially. We have one study called the ARIAS study, which is a retinal imaging trial. And that particular trial is actually for anyone, whether they have cognitive impairment or not. And it's looking to see if we can look through the retina to look at the amyloid protein versus a PET scan. So this is the really exciting stuff that we have here. It's all on our website. And we also, for people that join the registry, will connect you to any of those studies if you're eligible.
excellent. That's great. And I think I'm going to sign up for that. So not that specific one, but the registry. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, when you join the registry, you're not signing up for a study. That's an important thing to know. You're just consenting to giving us your health history and information, which of course is kept HIPAA compliant, and it's a secure and encrypted database and all of that stuff. So it's safe to do. And you can always say no. If we email you and say, hey, you interested in the ARIA study and you're not, you just don't have to answer.
That's right. Yeah. All right. Awesome. Any other comments? Any other questions while we're still here? All right. Seeing none, I'm going to read some closing words, and then you have 10 extra minutes to enjoy your lunch before you go to work or wherever else you're going. Here's my closing words. I will fight with you. I will remember for you. I will advocate because of you, and I will one day honor the memory of you, always, until the sun will rise over a day without Alzheimer's or dementia. Amen to that. All right. I think that wraps us up for today. Athena, am I correct in saying that you'll send me slides so I can forward to the group?
Yes, so I'll send a PDF of the slides that I went through today with my contact information. If anybody or anyone that you reach out to wants to talk with us directly, they can always talk to me or anyone on the outreach team. We're very happy to help. And Dawn, thank you so much to you and your team for inviting me today. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Athena. We appreciate you as well.